Welcome to Elite Bicycles. I'm Cody. This is our new Skyway TA24 build. We're doing all profile components with some Shimano and Bullseye mixed in there. Alright, starting off with the front end here. This frame has an integrated headset. We already greased it and installed the bearings. These actually just slide in here. So all you have to do is slide the fork up. Make sure you have that bottom race on there. It's very important. Put the top race in there. Slide that guy down there. We went with the Odyssey high polished tall stack headset. Depending on the height you like, you can play with the spacers a little bit. For now, we'll just snug that together. And there's the basics of the front end. Alright, to top off the front end, we got the Skyway bars going on the blue profile acoustic stem. Get these on there. Since this is profile, it's made in America, you gotta have American wrenches. Alright, there it is. Alright, so we're starting off with the front of the drivetrain here. You won't see the wheels yet because we haven't built them yet. That's for another part of the video. So we're going to go ahead and put the cranks on. The customer went with the chrome profiles to match with the frame. And we ended up doing a outboard blue bottom bracket. And we're putting on a blue spline drive spider. And then he's got the chrome Elite sprocket. Little does he know, we're tying in some red with the red stickers, so it's going to look real nice. Now, one thing I wanted to note, if you guys don't know yet, standard profile cranks, they come with 5 5/8 spindles. Now, with all of the width of the outboard bottom bracket and the spline drive spider, you're going to need a wider spindle. So you go ahead and order the 6-inch spindle whenever you get these cranks. Alright, let's go ahead and thread the bottom bracket in. And if you're ever wondering what tool to use, this is the Park Tool BBT9. That's what's used on Shimano cranks, click cranks. Profile decided to build theirs the same way, so it makes it easy to find this tool. Alright, one thing you always want to do is use the spindle as a guide pin, and you always want to grease it. Grease is your friend. Now this is the tricky part, lining up the spacer. Sometimes you get lucky, you get it with one go. Alright, on this one we got lucky. We didn't have to space out the inner spacer. Depending on what frame you have, you may have to do it a few times to dial in the spacer. You always want that in there for compression when you're tightening everything down. Alright, we went ahead and installed the profile spline drive spider off camera. This does take a little while. Other than that, it's all spaced out, ready to go. So let's get the profile Elite chainring bolted on there. And one thing too, some people think that you have to take the spider off to get the sprocket on. That's not true, you just gotta fish it around a little bit. And before I install those, we're putting on the red form chainring bolts. That should set it off real nice. Let's get those started there. Alright, there it is. Looks good. Got a 42 tooth on this one. Now most of the time the crank doesn't just slide on. This one's probably not going to either. So one thing you gotta do is just get it started as good as you can. And with the tool that comes with the crank, do the rest of the work. This little guy right here. Make sure your arm's lined up with the splines. You don't want to cross spline it. That's never a good day. And this procedure, just take your time, go slow. No need to rush this part. And one thing too, always make sure it's the right hand crank arm, because they pretty much look the same. Alright, so that's mated up with the spline drive spider there. One thing I always do before I move on to the next side is take the tool all the way out and look at the crank on the spindle. Make sure there's enough spindle going through the crank arm. Moving on to the left side arm. One thing to make sure, grease is always your friend. Always. Little trick to line up the splines. Line it up with the seat post. Move it a little forward. Guaranteed to line up every time. Alright boys, got the cranks on, got everything all tightened up. Let's get those wheels on. Alright, for this wheel set, we have the brand new 24-inch SE blue tan wall tires. We got the pretty sweet profile chain tensioners. We went ahead and just did silver spokes. We have blue aluminum nipples, and then the profile elites. One of the best sounding hubs in my opinion. The front, it's all the same. Let's get them on the bike. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put the chain on now. So chains are a huge preference, but for us here, we like to do performance chains. This may not be the prettiest, the chromest chain you can find, but it's one of the smoothest running. It's the SRAM PC870. We've ran this for years on bikes, never had any issues. So let's go ahead and open it up and put it on. One thing I always do before I even cut the chain is make it tight, check alignment. Very important. We're pretty dead on here. One thing I also recommend, always use the master link. So we cut 2 female ends. We won't have to put the pin back through the other side. It always takes material away when you put it back through the chain. There's a little 2-piece master link right here. Put one on each side. There it is. Alright, we got the chain all set and all tight. Now, I've set up a lot of profiles and a lot of elites, but this setup right here, this seems to be one of the smoothest that we've ever done. It's almost dead quiet. Probably won't even be able to pick that up on camera. But then when you coast, they'll be able to hear you coming. get a higher pitched one so we can actually hear it. Alright, for the brake set, we got a performance brake set here that's one of the better looking ones. Shimano DXR. One little note here, a lot of people don't know about, is there's 3 holes in there, and you always want to stick the pin in the middle one. That's your normal tension. That's where your brakes are going to work the best. Alright, to finally finish off the front end, we've got the Shimano DXR lever to match the DXR brakes out back. This should look really good on here. We got the Amy Unitrons in blue and red. And then the cable I've been holding, box concentric cable. Alright, so we're running the cable. Now there's no right or wrong to run these things. Cable length out front of your bar is all preference. I like a good round circle around the bar. Alright, moving on to the back here. You always want to set your cable length with your noodle in tow. I take the spring out so I can move it in and out way easier. Take it to your edge there. Make sure the noodle is straight and is hitting the brake. It's got a good length to it. Box supplies all cable fittings with the little kit there. You won't need one in here. It's kind of a built-in cable tip there, or housing tip I should say. And that looks pretty good. Alright, let's run the cable. Alright, now I got the front of the cable ran. This is a box Teflon coated cable. I always check my cable before I put the boot on. Thank you, cameraman. Here's the little boot here at Shimano supplies. Alright, so I'm just setting up the cable here. Now if you're a brake nerd like I am, the box concentric cable is the best one to get. Buttery smooth, and it adds power to the braking system. If you want good power, you go with box, you go with Shimano. Alright, everything's just settling in. I usually give it about 3 good pulls, stretch the cable in, and then adjust from there. Alright, so I had to pull out my master brake tool here. This is a standard Phillips screwdriver. This is what's going to center all the brakes. You just play with each side of the tension until it's even, until it feels good. There we go, we're about centered. That's about it for the brakes. Just got to trim the cable, line up the pads a little bit better, and we're good to go. Alright guys, here's the final piece. This thing turned out awesome. It's a perfect amount of blue against that chrome with just a little bit of red to match the Skyway stickers. Now we wanted to give you a final rundown of all the parts we put on this Skyway frame, fork, and bar combo. So it was a mostly profile build with some Shimano, bullseye, and box mixed in there. And SE tires, can't forget about those. So starting off with the wheel set, we did the Profile Elite hubs in all blue. We did Rhinolite Chrome XL outers, DT Swiss spokes, one of the best spokes you can buy. Now for the crank setup, we got a Profile Chrome crank, Profile Spline Drive Spider, and your Profile outboard bottom bracket. Finish it off perfectly in my opinion. Profile Elite sprocket. Now Bullseye came out to play. If you ever miss your pedal on these bad boys, they'll remind you not to do it again. Now for the braking power, we got Shimano DXRs for the lever and the brakes. We have SE tires again. We have up front the Profile acoustic stem, Odyssey high polished tall stack headset. Finish it off nicely, we have the Amy Unitron grips. Stay tuned for more builds just like these.